Part 44. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 432. Scene in the cellar. Through the golden-winged ants, Ecchi had already heard their conversation clearly, pasted a hidden charm, and jumped over the wall of Yefu. He didn't rush to follow it, but looked carefully, and found that on the sides of the passage where the gate entered, many tall trees were planted. These trees were planted behind the houses on both sides, and they could not be noticed. Ecchi was shocked. If he hadn't heard their conversation, he would go in arrogantly, for fear that he would have to reach the Tao. This psychedelic mystery is a bit special. It uses the planted spiritual wood shrubs as an array of eyes, and is inspired by the natural spiritual power of the spiritual wood. There is no need for a spiritual stone to drive it, so if Ecchi is really trapped, it will be troublesome. Now that you know that there is a magic array, Ecchi immediately changed places to enter. This area of Yefu is so large that you can't set up the whole government. Ecchi quickly found that there was no problem in the back garden and went directly. When he saw the tall brangrain tree like a coconut tree, he sighed a little. A young master was here with a hot girl. The scene of hip-hop juggling came up again. Xiaohong, I must find you, Ecchi reassured himself. The golden-winged ants were still on the two monks. Ecchi could sense that they had arrived near the Ye family ancestral temple by the sense of God. Then their conversation came again, occasioned to Uncle Lu Lizang. Everything is normal outside. It seems that a sheep-goat in the countryside does not understand the rules and ruined the watchflower. The real person named Lu Lilian who erected the foundation, still groaned, it's been so long, and I haven't seen any sheep rushing the sheep. It's a puzzling thing. The thin man laughed, Uncle, it was because this ignorant sheep wife hadn't sold sheep before. That's what rural people do. Lu Lili nodded his head, took out a small black cloth bag and handed them to them. This is the seed of the lookout flower. You can replant it? Remember, don't care, Ecchi's kid is not something you can deal with. Hiding in Yefu, everything will be no problem as soon as I start the phantom beast. Yes. As soon as the two gas monks wanted to go out, they heard a loud noise from behind, and the door was kicked open, but unexpectedly, the outside was empty and there were no ghosts. Lu Lion's heart moved and he immediately understood what he shouted, it's Ecchi. He has this means. The three monks went to take pictures of the storage bags at the same time, and they all thought at the same time, even if you could kill us, Ecchi, we wouldn't die in vain. We will inform Shi Dingfeng's ancestors that he can get here in half a day with his supernatural power. The three monks had the same idea, and they all found a note at the same time. Lu Li laughed, even if Ecchi is more powerful, can you stop us from sending a note at the same time? Void air swayed like a stream of water, and a cold voice came out, then you can try it. In fact, Lu Lilian and Ecchi talked to let the two nephews record the transmission, but his plan was still unsuccessful. Clang, a crisp, sweet bell rang in the room, and the sound waves visible to the naked eye even rippled the air in layers. Dementor bell. That's right, it is this bell. The epitaph in the bell and the soul of a monk have greatly enhanced the power of this bell. The two gas monks were shocked by the sound of this evil door, and felt that their primitive gods ran out of the flesh uncontrollably, while the monk Lu Lilian, who was a base-building monk, was immediately obsessed with the general. Don't blame me, who told you to take on this task? Ecchi coldly hummed and let out a flying sword. Suddenly, all three monks did not have the top spiritual shield, a flying sword swept over, and three heads rolled down. If you want to kill me, you need to have a sense of death. Ecchi raised his hand and took away the three people's storage bags. Just trying to erase the spiritual knowledge from above, Ecchi suddenly moved his ears, and he felt that there were still people here. This room is next to the Ecchi Ancestral Hall. It used to be the dormitory of the Ye family guardian Ancestral Hall. Now it is empty and occupied by the guys in Qingminggu. Ecchi felt that there were still people, and immediately searched in the soldiers' dormitory, but turned around and found nothing. He didn't bother to look for it anymore. He showed up and was going to go to the ancestral shrine to offer incense to his ancestors. But when I walked to the door, I suddenly remembered that there was a cellar under the barracks where vegetables were stored. Yekong did not dare to carelessly, offered a flying sword, and walked down the cellar. However, what he saw in the cellar surprised Yekong Zhong. The inside had been converted into a prison and locked inside. It turned out that it was Yechang's relative, Centurion Captain Lu Changqing, and a soldier. Originally Yekong killed the 3 monks with a bit of guilt. After all, they follow the teacher's order to monitor. Here there are some wrongs in death, but now it seems that it is injustice not to let them die. These all the guys have to do everything. Damn, Yekong watched as Lu Changqing and other iron bone men were tortured to thin bone phosphine only 3 years ago, and his heart was furious. He just killed 3 people just now, and did not take their souls and let them reincarnate. You can see Lu Changqing's tragic situation. He immediately ran back to the top, and took in the 3 souls that had not dissipated with 100 souls. Go and make food for my wolf king, Yekong yelled, and Yekong didn't think it was enough. For these wicked scum, killing can't relieve the hatred at all, but he has no other way now, only ruthlessly. Heavy times are used as a cannon, and torture is extremely evil. One day I will make you guys what the can't die. After receiving the soul, Yekong released Lu Changqing and others. They have been in the ground for a long time. These good men stood in the bright sunlight and couldn't open their eyes for a long time. After they opened their eyes, they were busy kneeling down, Xianxia's life-saving grace. Yekong couldn't help but burst into tears. It was Yekong that got you involved. Ye family owes you. How can I thank you? At first, they thought that they had white robes and bright armors. They were full of brilliance, sturdy horses, and vertical and horizontal battlefields. In the past few years, they have settled in such a field, and they can't bear to see more. Shi Dingfeng, these accounts will have to be paid back sooner or later. Yekong didn't reveal his identity. He had already affected them like this. If he spread it out and met with them again, I was afraid they would die. Yekong only said that he was just seeing things wrong, and the dozen or so soldiers had no doubt. Yekong asked them about the situation again. You know, more than 3 years ago, Yekong hadn't left for a long time. Brother Lu and Feng Xiniang went out to probe the news of Yekong's mother. Who knew that he would never return? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 433. 433 Home. Fortunately, they didn't return. It didn't take long for monks to come to inquire about Yekong. Where would Lu Changqing and other relatives know where Yekong was, and they wouldn't say it? So these pro-soldiers were caught up by a monk. These monks are the only clue they can find, so in order to compete for these pro-soldiers, the monks fought again for a long time, and finally the people in Qingming came and took the few the monks killed, and Lu Changqing and others fell into the hands of monks in Qingming until today. Yekong asked them again if they knew where the Lu family brothers and others were going. Some of them said they went to Huangzhou, some said they went to Andu, and they couldn't tell. It seems that they can't hear anything from them, and Yekong's heart is a little worried again. According to the truth, the Lu family brothers and Feng Xiniang are old people. If they find the old mother, they should come back and say something. If you can't find it, you will come back again. Why do you come back when you go out? Could it have been arrested? Or what happened? Yekong was afraid to think. At the moment, he took out all the silver couples in the storage bag, and let the dozens of relatives go to Huangzhou to find a livelihood. Yekong was busy looking for his mother and had no time to take care of them. Of course, Yekong is by no means the kind of person who pays some money. His credo is how others treat me, I will treat people twice. These relatives are repeatedly involved by themselves, even if they die. No heartfelt complaint. If you just send away some money, don't you think that they will be compensated too little? Yekong told them to go to Huangzhou to find a livelihood, just to settle down afterwards, and then go to Huangzhou to find them. The immortal division saved himself and returned the silver. The soldiers went with gratitude. Yekong hides, escorted them for a while, and found that no one was really watching, and then returned to the southern capital. Ye family ancestral hall. Under the plaque for a tooth, Yekong, a man in Xingyi, strode in, and he had taken off his camouflage and saw his loved ones as he was. He did not use his spiritual power to walk one by one, lighting the candle grass in front of each spiritual plaque. His movements were slow and his face was dignified. Dad, although you haven't been optimistic about me and didn't take on the responsibility of being a father, but I have to fulfill the role of a son. The son has already avenged you and the whole family. Under Jiquan, you heard the news. Are you very happy? Have you seen the junk emperor in Rushan? Will he have to be stunned by being a ghost? Yekong laughed softly, but tears rolled down his eyes. He picked up Ye Wei's spirit card again. Brother, tell you a good news, my brother has finally built the foundation. Haven't you been anxious all the time? Don't I have a cultivator in the Ye family? Now I have it. I am already a true cultivator. Everyone who bullies Ye's family will pay him back 100 times. Hearing this news, you will definitely drink a few more glasses in the local government. Yekong didn't leave the ancestral temple. He spent all day and night in the ancestral temple, accompanied by those cold spiritual bit cards. He felt that the wooden signs were not so cold, but warm and warm. Even those brothers and sisters who once looked down on him no longer hate. He even smiled. Ye Long Yehu, I will come to see you often, even if you scold me for waste, I promise not to yell at you. A day later, Yekong left the ancestral hall and came to the backyard. There are a few old cypress trees here. It was originally a school in the house. Yekong buried Zhongwude here. Zhongwude's body was burned by those copyists. It's just a cloak. Teacher, I will help you kill the person you hate the most. Here is his head. You can squint, teacher, I know you don't like me to be a monk. You say monks are selfless and ruthless, do respect the laws, think of mortals as ants, killing innocent, you are right, but rest assured, I will be a monk different from Kangnan monk. I want to have supreme power, I want to establish iron-like rules. I to this world, is the world I imagine. It was only half a day before Yekong was convinced that Yi Rongdan walked out of Ye's house, but as soon as he went out, he remembered another thing in surprise. Huang Quan's ancestors didn't come in. Originally promised, Huang Quan's ancestor went to give Lao Yangfu a reward and followed in, but these 2 days have passed, and the old guy has never come. Yekong Kong was startled, but then guessed where the old guy had gone. It must have been to that little warbler girl. The ancestor broke her body at the beginning, but others didn't know it was the ancestor, and Feng Xiniang didn't know. Under Yekong's exhortation, Feng Xiniang gave Xiaoying her freedom at first, and she was raised in a courtyard not far from the Tibetan spring house. Not many people know about this, so Xiaoying was spared. Everyone thought she had redeemed her. Feng Xiniang didn't say, no one knew, so Xiaoying girl lived in that small courtyard. This girl doesn't have a bad personality. She likes to stay in the house with an old lady to take care of it, so I know that there are not many beauties here. But recently, I was a little troubled. Feng Xiniang left early and broke her livelihood. After a few years, Jinshan was also shorted out, and the old man had an idea. Outside news came, some said that Master Ye was hunted down and was dead, others said that Master Ye had gone to live outside the region, and even Feng Xiniang was taken away by him. Others said that Ye the master saves too many people, the merit is immense. It's talking about noses and eyes. What's falling from the sky is a golden rope, and Master Ye is climbing up the rope along the rope. In short, there is a lot of news. In summary, Master Ye will never return. The old lady can't say bad heart, the key is that there is no money. Your eighth master asks Xiaoying girl to guard you, can't we let us starve to death? There are many such situations. The abandoned wives of the merchants have no money to live in, and their only end is to remarry, or, like King Mei, go out and sell, it is forced by life. Selling is of course the last step. The old lady wants to go first and let Xiaoying remarry. It's impossible to make a big house. Of course, Xiaoying is unwilling. How can he be a young lady who is a master of the southern capital Yayeba? How does Master 8 come back to face him? However, Xiaoying couldn't help but persuade her. When her last jewelry was finished, she had no choice but to promise her to see her. Since it was the girl's family that had agreed, the old lady did not live up to her expectations and didn't know how to take the young master of Zhao's car dealership. This Zhao's car dealership is one of the best in Nandu. It has a rich family base and rich money. Confession wall. To the reader. Issue 3. Duo must say to brother Yang, happy birthday to her husband, Duo will always love you, remember to always say, oh yeah. Issue 4. You how, you, the barbarian fairy Ban. I quarreled with my girlfriend and snatched my girlfriend, Lin Chunlin, I love you, I haven't eaten for 2 days. I want to be with you forever. Issue 5. Xianxia wants to say to Baby Bear, I want to say sorry to you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 434. Four ancestors go home. Zhao Quiliang was 24 to 5 years old and handsome. Not only that, but he still had real people. He was a talented man in the township test, and he was a little bit skillful under his hands. There is already a wife in Zhao Quiliang's house, but the woman is a fierce woman, which makes Zhao Quiliang unable to accept her. When I heard that the little warrior girl here was also tempted, she wanted to spend some money to play in the outside room. The most important thing is that I heard the old lady said that this little warbler was once favored by Master Ye, who was an immortal teacher. Can he also draw some immortality from that treasure? So, this day, Zhao Quiliang took his men, sat in the car, and came to the door. He had already decided that he must take down the little warbler girl, and strive to bring down that girl today and go to the cave to find treasure. When Zhao Quiliang came to the alley, Lao Yang had long been looking forward to it, and hurried to meet him. When he saw the gift from Zhao Daigong, Lao Yang had been embarrassed. Silver 500, 10 brocades, a pair of gold bracelets. Even the wines and dishes that came here were brought by themselves. They were exquisite dishes made by chefs in Nandujuklu. Dad Zhao, look at you, come here, what kind of courtesy do you bring? The old lady greeted Dazao Zhao cheerfully, and long distance shouted into the cabin, Miss Xiaoying, hurry up, point out to greet Grandpa Zhao. Xiaoying was also forced to die, but fortunately, the quality of Zhang Chunlu was still there, and he hurried to the door to bless him. Then Zhao Quiliang took a look, hey, beauties, surely, yes, 8th master had a good vision, and he was worth a few $100. Such a beautiful woman is innocent, although she is not pure, but the immortality is more valuable than anything. If you can get a little light, not to talk about immortality, it is to be disease-free and disaster-free. Make big money. Little Ying, just talk to Grandpa Zhao. The old lady picked up the dishes on the table, and quickly hurried out of the door. When she walked to the door, she did not forget to look back and say, have a good chat. The backhand closed the door, and the old man stood outside the door. They couldn't wait for the two to chat. Just then, an ancestor came. Although Huan Quan's ancestors have lived for so many years, the women passing by don't know how many, But after all, the little warbler came to him at the time of the crash, and he also feels a little hometown about the southern capital, and this small courtyard makes him feel just home. Therefore, he must come to visit Nandu. Originally, Yekong had agreed to enter Yefu, but when he went in, he found that someone was feeling sad and died, and Huang Quan's ancestor went out and hurried toward the courtyard. Thinking of seeing the girl who was waiting for her, Huang Quan's ancestor had become a little stone-hearted and excited. At the beginning, after Xiaoying XX, he wiped out Xiaoying's consciousness, so the girl didn't know who she did it with. Even Huang Quan, the ancestor, she had never heard of it. In order to make a good first impression, Huang Quan's ancestor specially bought a set of clothes at the clothing store on the road. Of course, the old man didn't bring any money. He only remembered it when he put on his clothes. Then he took out a spiritual stone to pay the bill. The boss also saw the market. When he looked at the spiritual stone, this is the cultivator. Hurry back to the spirit. The clothes were also given away. Huang Quan's ancestors walked to the gate of the small courtyard and looked at a wagon parked without much thought. They just strode in. Those Zhao family members saw that the young master was gorgeously dressed. At first glance, he was rich. He didn't dare to ask, so he went straight in. Huang Quan's ancestors are depressed. What are they doing? Why don't you need to report when entering the door? Not afraid to recruit a thief? He hurriedly walked over, and the small courtyard was not large. When he entered the door, he saw the hut, and there was an old woman standing outside. Huang Quan's ancestor was thinking of fulfilling his dream again, happy in his heart, and strode in, as the mother was totally blind. Hey! This young master, are you from the Zhao family? The old lady looked at this young master, but she was dressed in expensive clothes and she was amazing. She thought it was brought by Zhao Kuliang. Huang Quan's ancestor was inexplicable and annoyed. What is Zhao's family? I'm from Chen's family. This southern capital also happens to have a family member named Chen who is in the jewelry business and has 3 cents more money than the Zhao family, but the Chen family and the Zhao family have always had a bad relationship. The old man also contacted the son of the Chen family before. After listening to the ancestor of Huang Quan, she immediately exclaimed, "Ah! The Chen family is here too. Really, don't come early or come late, but this time." The ancestor was annoyed. TNND, this is the home of Lao Tzu. Is it necessary to return home after seeing the yellow calendar to find a good date? When the attack was about to occur, I heard the old man ask again, "Will you, Chen Gongzi, come by yourself or for your brother?" Although Kangnan mainland got married early, but Chen Baixuan was 12 years old. If the boy came to look for a girl, even the old lady felt a little bit earlier. Huang Quan's ancestor was asked about the mistyhood of Yunchen, and said, "I'm really damn, since my ancestors lost my home I have more mothers, so I won't say if I have a master, and I have an older brother?" "I don't have a brother." Huang Quan's ancestor stared. The old man saw that the boy was young and had a temper, and he didn't dare to offend. He covered his mouth and smiled. "That's the son-in-law of Chen Gongzi, but, I think the younger son is younger, he must have not married. It's a little early to find this, or you can give it to Grandpa Zhao." The old lady thinks, "Are you looking for an outside room at such a young age? It is inconvenient. You must not allow it at home, and you don't bring any gifts with you, so you should go." But Huang Quan's ancestor didn't understand it at all. He heard something inexplicable. She didn't know what she was talking about. She scratched her head and cursed, "Is your wife crazy or crazy? What is this gibberish here? Let Lao Tzu go in quickly." Huang Quan's ancestor scolded people is a habit. Although he was afraid that he was a big family son, but you always scolded people. The old man said angrily, "Chen Gong, please come back and tell you the truth. our little girl Ying has already met Zhao Degong of the Zhao family car dealer, and now they are very happy to talk to each other. It is estimated that she has promised to Zhao Da my son did it. My ancestor, my woman is a puppet for others. Huang Quan's ancestor was really angry. He lived for more than 100,000 years. He was not so lazy today. When he was so angry, he kicked the old man, pushed open the door, and walked in. The two were talking inside. Although the little girl promised her old wife, but always felt sorry for Ye Gongzi, she said to Zhao Kuliang, Master Zhao, the slave family is Ye Gongzi. He not only opened the body for the slave family but also helped him. I redeemed my body, and the meaning of it must be that Grandpa Zhao should know, although the slave family is in trouble now, if Master 8 returns, all the problems can be solved. If the grandfather gives us help, the slave family thinks that Master 8 must be thankful for his return. Of The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 435. 4, 3, 5 Ancestors are angry. Although this little girl was born in a greenhouse, she would weigh the pros and cons more than ordinary women. In a word, Zhao Kuliang was dumbfounded. Zhao Kuliang thought to himself, yeah, since the 8th master redeemed the woman, she must have had affection. If she had married her, she might have returned home, and her whole family's life would be accounted for. If you give this woman a little help at this moment, Ye Kong will return, then she is a benefactor, and her family are all civilians. If she can meet a cultivator, what will happen in the future? However, he also thought that it was rumored that Master Ye Ba would not return, and even Feng Xiniang was taken away, leaving the woman with no feelings, otherwise why not take them all together? In addition, I rushed to myself and gave away the silver in vain without touching my fingers. In the middle of a while, the door was suddenly kicked open, and a 12-year-old boy was rushed in. After the boy came in, there was a roar. The sound of was shocking. Zhao Kuliang felt as if his heart was going to be shattered, and then all the walls around him were shaking, and then he heard a boom, and it was a slamming sound. When Zhao Kuliang opened his eyes again, I saw that the hut was completely gone, everything in the house was gone, the beams, bricks and utensils were all scattered into debris and piled up under the walls on both sides. The only thing left was his own table and the two people sitting there, as if he and the little girl were sitting and eating on the open space. The family members of Zhao's house outside heard the hurries of hurrying inside and saw this thrilling scene. The master couldn't bother, and they knelt down and scratched their heads, calling the immortal master Rao Ming. Who is going to dig the corner of Laozi? Huang Quan's ancestor glared at Zhao Kuliang, walking step by step, watching Zhao Kuliang's heart startle. When the boy came to the front, Zhao Kuliang couldn't sit still. He knelt down and said, Xianxia, you don't see it like this. Understand that Xiaoying girl is in short hands. This is to give the little Ying girl silver money. How dare you disagree with Xiaoying girl? Seeing the two sitting satisfactorily, Huang Quan's ancestors were relieved in his heart and asked, how long are you here today, Zhao? 11 Xianxia, for the first time. Zhao Kuliang scratched his head like a pounding garlic, and then said busily, here is to come and have a glass of wine with Xiaoying girl, without even touching her fingers. Immortal master's life, it really came to give away money. Old Huang Quan snorted before, you will be sick when you touch your fingers. You can't get out of the way, waiting for the old ancestor to destroy you. Zhao Kuliang was so frightened that he stumbled and ran out of the door, and the voice of an ancestor sounded behind him, give me 100,000 silver tomorrow. How can the woman of the ancestor drink this glass of wine for you? Zhao Kuliang's heart is even dead. Damn, it's too moldy. I just came here for a glass of wine and it cost 100,000 yuan. Fortunately, you came early. If you drink a few more glasses, you will also sell the car. Can't afford it? Zhao Kuliang rushed home, and collected 100,000 yuan of silver overnight, and delivered it the next morning. The problem was solved, but the ancestor encountered a new problem. Because Xiaoying's memory was erased at first, the little Yingying girl relied on saying that she was the master of Yeba. No matter how you are an immortal, the immortal girl can only accompany you to drink. Not only that, someone even demolished the house, and there was no place to sit. Fortunately, I heard that Xiaoxian came from the next house, and quickly vacated the house to let them live, so that there was a place to talk. The night was full of stars and stars. Yekong ignored the broken things in the house below, and sat alone on the ridge with a piece of jade card in his hand, which was obtained from the monks of Qingming Valley. Not only does Yekong record the method of cultivating the lookout flower, but also the method of monitoring the array of the lookout flower arrangement. This is Yekong's biggest harvest this time. In addition, there is a jade card, which contains the control method of the magical beast. It is not useful to Yekong. There is no method of arraying. What is the use of the control method? What makes Yekong the most happy is that even the seeds of the watch flower have prepared a lot for him. In the future, he can also put a few watch flowers somewhere to peek at the privacy of others. Before he came up, he had planted several lookout flowers in the pots in the lower room, and he planted them according to the position of the surveillance array method. In order to test the inability, Ye decided to look at the two below. Using the surveillance array is also very simple, but it is not like a TV screen on the earth. Just take out a jade card with the same tricks as the surveillance array, and immerse the gods into. You can clearly see that it is much more advanced than the video screen. It is 3D. I saw the light in the room below, and the little girl was sitting sideways on the couch, clutching the bed veil in her hand, and leaning on her side. From the perspective of Huang Quan's ancestors, he could just see the beautiful thighs and thighs wrapped in tight pants skirts. The woman's beautiful figure moved the forefinger, but Huang Quan's ancestors could not. You can't use against your own woman, let alone Xiaoying said, if you take her, she will commit suicide. Huang Quan's ancestor said, Xiaoying, you said that Yekong was happy with you that day, but do you remember the scene that day? You only remember Yekong entered the room, and then remember nothing, right? Xiaoying has always been worried about this, not knowing why such an important thing is forgotten. She just nodded without speaking. Huang Quan's ancestor said again, if it was Yekong's kid that day, why did he erase your memory? Because it was me that day and I was inconvenient to show up, this will erase your memory. But that doesn't prove to be you, Xiaoying thought about. How can't I prove it? Huang Quan's ancestor was a little angry and walked back and forth twice. It's me who erased your memory. I also checked your memory at first. You were 8 years old and separated from your family. Later you were trafficked. When you go to Zhangchunlu, you always remember the separated family. Are you right? Also, there is a small red mole at the root of your legs. You used to have upset stomachs, but you haven't done it with me again, right? Xiaoying was shocked in her heart. These were all her secret things. How would anyone know? In particular, she wanted to find the heart of her family, and she never said it to anyone. After hearing what he said, Xiaoying believed something, and looked back at the child. She frowned and asked, isn't that the 8th master that day, but you? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 436. 4 or 6 glasses of wine. As soon as Huang Quan saw the door, he quickly sat down next to Xiaoying and laughed, you silly girl, that day, Yekongza went to the wind with her, and of course I was with you, and I am a monk. What women do nt have, if it's not for you already, I do nt care about you, how much time would I use you to talk nonsense? Xiaoying thought that was indeed the case. Although he was somewhat attractive, he was nothing to the cultivator. Besides, if he has no affection for himself, Why should he talk nonsense and settle himself directly with fairy art? He can do whatever he wants. Oh, Xiaoying nodded, his face flushed. Huan Quan's ancestors were overjoyed, and put a small hand on the round strands of Xiaoying Runfei. But at this time, Xiaoying thought about the key issue again. She pushed away the old hand of Huan Quan's ancestor and said, "You must lie to me. Now you are only 12 years old, and you were 8 years old 4 years ago. Even then, if you want to break my body, I am afraid that I have enough energy." Xiaoying's suspicion makes sense. You are an 8-year-old child, and you haven't developed. Huan Quan's ancestors really hate someone. Why do you find yourself with such a small body, and your women don't recognize themselves? It's really anxious. I didn't look like this 4 years ago. This body is not my body. Do you understand? Seeing Xiaoying's completely idiotic expression, Huan Quan's ancestor was going crazy. The fairy family told you and didn't understand it? In short, you have come from me, and you will be fragrant and spicy in the future. I can make you live longer and stay young, and I can find you a family. No. Master 8 redeemed me, and I had to guard him, unless he told me personally, it was you who took my first red that day. Huan Quan's ancestor was helpless and had to be angry at the flower pot at the foot of the wall. Boy. I've seen it for a long time now. Don't give it to me to solve it. Yehalo was startled. It's not that the ancestors found themselves. The ancestors are so old, it's easy to find that they are tired of kittens. Yekong was surprised that Huan Quan's ancestor let him go down to show his identity. He used the ancestor's temperament to force an XX if he could not explain it. Now let him go on to show his identity. It seems that the ancestor is really interesting to this little girl. Although Yekong felt that his ancestor's behavior was a bit ill-considered, he didn't say much, so he took the elixir that lifted Yurong and went to see Xiaoying in its original form. Xiaoying then fully believed the words of the ancestor. Although the girl Xiaoying always thought that his man was the 8th master, but now he only accepts this fact. Besides, Chen Baichuan's skin is still very good. It looks like a wealthy little boy and an immortal. The only problem is that they are younger. There was a turning point for the little warbler girl here, and an ancestor was impatient to push someone out of the door, and then the flower pot with the lookout flower was thrown out. "Hey, sir, you haven't peeled that stuff yet, you don't need it," a hooligan laughed outside. The ancestor screamed from the room, "I won't ask for your help if you don't need it, get out." I don't know what the old ancestor Huan Quan used, and even made Xiaoying girl scream for a few hours. He heard Yekong be disturbed. Finally, he put in a simple soundproofing enchantment, and he was born. In the early morning of the next day, the door was knocked outside before dawn. Zhao Kuliang picked up a few carts of silver overnight and delivered it early in the morning. Even his dad took a cane to apologize to the immortal. Xianxia was ignorant yesterday and offended the girl Xiaoying. Today, she expresses her apology. Zhao old man came over. Then a family member brought in boxes of silver, and Huan Quan's ancestors were not polite. He took the aureole out of the room and waved at the silver sleeves of Wan Liang, and the silver was put into a storage bag. In fact, these are all monk's tricks, but they are magical to mortals. The Zhao family father and son immediately knelt down and scratched their heads to ask the immortal master to save his life. Seeing that his man was so extraordinary and happy in her heart, Xiaoying girl said, "Dad, Zhao really just gave me silver, and it didn't offend me. I think Lang Jun just let it go." Huan Quan's ancestor was called out by Lang Jun cheerfully, and waved his hand, "Well, you can go now." Who knew that the Zhao family's father and son refused to leave on their knees, and brought a plate with 100 spirit stones inside. The old man Zhao said, "Xianxia, the children in the next house are all outside, and I want to ask Xianxia to check whether they have the qualifications for cultivation. Hundreds of spirit stones are not easy for mortals to get, but it's nothing to Huan Quan's ancestors." He didn't have time to inspect the roots of the spirit. With a big wave, he collected the stones and put 2 bottles of elixir on the plate. I don't have time to check the qualifications, and I don't accept your spirit stone in vain. This is Songpan Innocent Dan. Eating immortal can increase your lifespan by 20 years, and it can strengthen your body. After taking it, you can do more with less effort. The other bottle is Xiahuandan. If you are injured and sick, as long as you have a breath, you can take it without any problems. Although the Zhao family was not checked for Lingon, they were also very satisfied to get these elixir. After all, Lingon is 1 in 2, and it is very unlikely that 100 or 2 of his family members will come up with 1 or 2. There is no such elixir of benefit, especially Mr. Zhao, seeing that he is old. How good is it to increase the lifespan of 20 years? For those of the Zhao family, this is also something that makes them happy. After taking the traditional Chinese medicines I want to practice martial arts with half the effort, they will have a chance to be in their prime. The immortal cultivation is too far away, and it is more affordable to be a powerful officer. What is depressing is that there is only Zhao Kuliang, who originally expected the old man to hang up. He has inherited the family business early, and now he has to wait another 20 years, which is really painful. Everyone in the Zhao family went with great gratitude. Huang Quan's ancestor asked Xiaoying to go back to the house and went into Yekong's room alone. He knew that, in fact, Yekong didn't want to identify himself to anyone. It was a bit tough for him to ask him to show his true face yesterday. Yaziazi, thank you last night, I really can't help that girl, Huang Quan ancestor said. Yekong came to me with a smile. What is this? It's just a matter of hand raising. What thanks do you say? Although I am your master on the surface, in fact, you have taught me many things about immortality. You have helped me so much, but what about doing this little thing? Boy, you say that, my ancestors can rest assured. The old ancestor Huang Quan nodded and said, actually, I just want a home. I see that you have an old lady to worry about, and a wife and concubine to care. My old envy, after living for more than 100,000 years, there is no one who cares about herself. It is really sad, this little girl can wait so long, and my ancestor can't treat her badly, so I want you to come down and show. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 437. 437 Kink Village. It's okay, Yekong interrupted him, and said, but you said you were homeless and no one cared. You are now home. Your old lady Baijie is still hanging you in Wukuyun's Fuji. Actually, both you and your mother care about you very much, and now you can rest assured that your parents are both complete. That's right, Huang Quan's ancestor immediately said something out of nowhere. What did both parents mean? Did he admit that he was a father? Huang Quan's old ancestor said angrily, good boy, you take advantage of me again. Yekong haha laughed, you are stupid. Watching the ancestor was about to jump up again, Yekong quickly shifted the topic and said, since the girl Xiaoying knows my true identity, for her safety and our safety, we can't let her stay in the southern capital. Huang Quan's ancestors have already thought about this and said, I originally ransomed Zhao Jiawan for 2 silvers just to leave some living expenses for Xiaoying. Now it seems that I can't leave her, but it's nothing to take anyway, we are also wandering around. It is more convenient for a woman to go together to inquire about things. Yekong laughed. That's fine, but you won't be able to make such great movements every night. Otherwise, I'll be out of luck. Huang Quan's ancestor said, don't you say I can't do it, I'm letting you know that I know my ancestor. Yekong was really curious and asked, my ancestor, tell me what tricks you have. I don't believe that your inch-long sparrow can make such a loud noise. Huang Quan's ancestor laughed proudly, confidential. That afternoon, Yekong and Huang Quan's ancestors took the little warbler on the road. The old lady gave the pen money, and she went away happily, and even the neighbor next door to let them stay got a good reward. They called a car and left the southern capital, all the way north, and heading for Endu. There is no urgency to find someone, and there is no fixed route. As long as I encounter a town, I stop and live for a few days, and inquire about the surrounding villages for a few days, and then continue to hurry. Yekong's method of asking is also very simple. If you are in the countryside, ask the children what births they have had in the past few years. In this world, the truth in children's mouths is more than that of adults, especially Yekong pulls out a handful of candy, and those children rush to answer. If you are in a town, look for the martial gangs in the city. There are gangs in all towns. As long as you use some means, those martial arts gangs will quickly inquire. Moreover, Yekong believes that if the brothers of the Lu family are still alive, they will also join these martial gangs, so that they can find both the old women and the brothers of the family. In such a village, a city after city to find. A month has passed. 2 months have passed. 3 months have passed. Kink village, named after a clear channel in the village. This place is located at the junction of Huangzhou and Yuanzhou. It faces the mountains and is remote. It can be said to be a remote place where rabbits do not shit. Generally, Yekong will not let go of these places. The more remote the village, the more likely it is that the people who were in trouble will hide. This day, the village entrance went into a pair of young men and women, and a little boy in a luxurious suit. Yekong stepped on the bluestone slab in front, striding forward, and Xiaoying and Huang Quan followed, holding hands. "Hey, boy, let me tell Xiaoying to walk side by side with you, I'll follow behind," Huang Quan ancestor said suddenly. Yekong slowed down and wondered, "Xiaoying is your woman. If I walk with her, wouldn't it make me mistake that I am a husband and wife?" "Well, that's better than now," Huang Quan sighed. "I walk side by side with her, and everyone misunderstood that she was my mother. Look at you." Xiaoying could not help but yelled, "I am so old." Yekong also laughed and said, "If I and Xiaoying walk side by side, it will be even worse, and others will misunderstand that we are your father and mother." "Go to death," Huang Quan's ancestor roared. The three laughed into the village of Kangku. "I thought the village was inconvenient in transportation and remote, so it must be poor." However, after entering the village, it was discovered that this was not the case. The roads in the village were paved with neat bluestone slabs. There were many shops on both sides of the road, and some looked quite elegant. "Is this the Kink village?" Xiaoying asked slowly and puzzled. "Nonsense, you didn't see the land boundary sign in the village just now," Huang Quan ancestor said. Yekong also said, "It is true that the village of Kink is not fake, but we have come all the way. We have not seen such a wealthy village, leaning on the mountains, and there are no big cities around. How can we be rich?" Huang Quan's ancestors took a look around and said, "Well, it's a bit strange. Look, there is actually a small greenhouse over there. Oh my God, there is such a large greenhouse in the small village." Huang Quan's ancestors didn't finish talking, and the little warbler was hurt by the little warbler on the back of his little hand. "Well, this is the color of a young man, and there is only a blue building in his eyes." Huang Quan's ancestor was grinned, but he was very happy. He didn't care about the street, so he pinched Xiaoying's stock. Xiaoying scolded immediately, You, this is on the street." "Haha, no one is on the street." As soon as Huang Quan's ancestors finished speaking, the three of them suddenly thought of something, and their faces suddenly became tense. Yeah, such a bustling village should be a busy time at this moment. Why don't there be any ghosts at a glance? "Can it be a ghost village?" muttered Huang Quan. "Ah!" Xiaoying was so frightened that he yelled and hid behind Huang Quan's ancestor. "What is terrible about ghosts is terrible people," Yekong said, taking the lead to go to the village, and saw that all the shops on both sides of the road were closed. Yekong affixed to a wooden door of a blacksmith's workshop, listened carefully, and when he heard something moving, he patted the door and shouted, "Hey, is anyone at home?" Someone inside shouted immediately, "There is no water and no water, hurry up." Blast. Huan Quan's ancestors were furious. "Your mother, I want to drool, don't yell at anyone, even if you don't give it." Huan Quan's ancestor took the magic weapon and wanted to smash in the door, but was taken by Yekong. "Forget it, there must be something strange here, look forward." A few more walked away and found that there were people there, but he refused to open the door. "Hey, the door in front is open," Xiaoying said, pointing to an open store in front. "Go and look over." The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 438. 4 or 8 dead corpses. When I walked closer, I saw that this is a medical museum. On the door, there is a wonderful hand to rejuvenate. The medicine is cured. By Xiaotian Medical Museum. They went in and found that the medical hall was not only open, but also many people were sitting inside. I saw that all of them were young men, with shirtless upper body, looking strong, with dark complexion and dark hair, but not very clean pants, all black and gray. Although these people are as strong as cows, they are not very good. They are stiff, eyes are dull, a little red light is in their eyes, and a cough is released after a while. At the far end of the medical hall, a white-haired old man sat cross-legged on the floor, in front of a small square table, with a patient's pulse in one hand, and a beard in the other. Hearing the strong man who was being pulsed said, "By Shanai, you need to save your life. My family and my old sister are waiting for me to spend $5 or $2 a month. If I die, they can't live. Go on, I'm not afraid of death, but I'm worried about them." As soon as this man spoke, the others next to him also said, "Yeah, God, you have to save us. I am the only child in the family, and no one will wear it to death." Others have complained while wiping their tears, "I blame myself. I watched people take 5 or 2 silvers every month, and they came here to work in the iron ore mine. Before the silver was taken, they were infected with the plague. Wow, I am good regret." "Don't make a noise, let the old man think about it." The divine doctor Bai Xiaotian didn't even scratch his head. He let go of his veins, looked up, and found 3 men and women in luxurious clothes at the door. Although this place looks prosperous, it is actually doing minor business. Not many people like Yekong are dressed up. In fact, Yekong is a blue shirt, but that immortal cultivator's momentum, the kind of immortal wind and bones that permeate from the heart of the Tao, make mortals feel that he is extraordinary. As for the extravagance felt by Bai Xiaotian, they are all too behind. A young boy with a pink makeup and jade cutout is so well fitted, and a jade belt around the waist is very valuable. As for a woman, it is even brighter. Wearing gold and silver on her body, she looks beautiful. In short, these people are definitely not mortal. Bai Xiaotian quickly got up and saluted, "3 guests from outside, what can you tell me?" "Oh, Bai Shanai is polite. We are all passers-by. We see that Kink village looks like a bustling village, but everyone is closed. Only when you open a medical house, you come in and ask." Yekan Baoquan said. Bai Xiaotian hadn't spoken yet. Those doctors who were sick were annoyed and said, "Foreigners, don't ask about it, leave quickly. Don't get into a plague and die somewhere else." Huan Quan's ancestor Huo Dadeo, "I rely on you, how can you say anything, who killed her mother?" Bai Xiaotian hurried to persuade, "Little grandfather, don't want to have general knowledge with these wild cows, they are also infected with plague, they can't be cured, and their hearts are sad, so they say bad things." Huan Quan snorted, "Well, I was originally a young master and I wanted to treat you, but the good guys didn't report it well. Since you don't want it, just leave it. Huang Quan's ancestors said that the miners all came over, but they saw disappointment in their eyes when they saw the age of Huang Quan's ancestors. The miner who hadn't talked well before was even ironic. Don't talk too much, just dare to talk to a doctor just a few days after dropping the pacifier. Even Bai Xiaotian said, little grandfather, this is a matter of life and death. You can't joke. If the little grandfather is fine, please. Huang Quan's ancestors were looked down upon in front of his wife, and he suddenly said angrily, who the is this? Look at their faces and look bright, is this the same as the plague situation? Bai Xiaotian was shocked, and looked at the miners again, and found that it was indeed the case. Although the expressions of the miners were stiff, they looked good, unlike the plague patients. Bai Xiaotian knew that he had met a senior and hurriedly saluted. The little grandfather said exactly, but the other symptoms of the patient seemed to be plague, such as a slow pulse and gray stagnation. Huang Quan's ancestor waved his hand, don't tell me this, I'm not Langzhong, and I won't see a doctor. When this word came out, everyone was uproar. You are too much, you are not Langzhong, you say a hare. You can't see a doctor, what else are you talking about, get out of here. Even the little warbler was faint, and he took Huang Quan's ancestor's little hand and said, Bai Xian, don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. People are like this, don't delay them from seeing a doctor. Who knew that Huang Quan's ancestor said, although I haven't studied medicine, and I don't know farts, but I can conclude that they are not a plague. Absolutely not. Che, you don't even know how to fart yourself, but what fart are you staying here, the young man retorted again. Another elder man beside him also said, yeah, the goddess doctors in Kink village all said it was a plague. I don't know how to get out of here, the other man yelled. This man was so irritable that I was going to die. He was still talking here and there. However, Yekong believes that Huang Quan's ancestors will not have nothing to do, although he does not understand medicine, but he has lived for more than 100,000 years. What hasn't he seen? So Yekong said aloud, dear everyone, please listen to me. Your condition is strange. Even the goddess has 5 strategies. It is better to listen to the opinions of all parties. If you do nt make sense, do nt rush to a conclusion, wait for him to say it's not too late to comment. The so-called rush to the doctor, those guys nodded, felt right, and no longer spoke. And a word from the old man was going to frustrate Huang Quan's ancestors, little father, since your father has spoken, you can hurry up and talk about it. In fact, the old death is also declining the plague. He can be my father? Hey, forget it, I can't tell you clearly. Huang Quan's ancestors waved helplessly. In fact, these miners are not infected with the plague, but poisoned with corpses. Ah, the miners all exclaimed, although they didn't understand what the corpse poison was, but it sounded worse than the plague. This time, Bai Xiaotian of Laolang was also cautious, looked back at the miners, and nodded, the disease of the corpse poison has been heard, but the sperm of the zombies attacked the patient was bitten, and the body was infected with zombie poison, the patient was also chaotic until he became a zombie. Ah, the miners exclaimed again, thinking of themselves as zombies in a few days, startled one by one. Suddenly a miner shook his head and said, no, that's not the case. We haven't seen any zombies, and we haven't been bitten. Why do we get corpses? Yes? How can this be explained? Bai Xiaotian didn't look at Huang Quan's ancestor, because he also felt like a corpse poison, he just bowed his head and thought. I only listened to Huang Quan's ancestors again, they have not been bitten, and they may not have seen the zombies, but they were infected with corpse poison. There is only one reason for this, that is, someone has deliberately corpse poison. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 439. 439 Corpses poisonous. No, who will harm us as miners? We only took a few more silver, which was hard money. Many miners were frightened and seemed to believe some of Huang Quan's ancestors. Bai Xiaotian now looked at Huang Quan's ancestors, but there was no contempt. He immediately lifted his front placket and fell down and said to the ground, "Save your life and win the 7th level floating slaughter. Since the little grandfather can see their illness, if there is a cure, please ask my little grandfather to fight for justice." Everyone was kneeling at the side of Bai Shanai, and they all knelt down and begged. Xiaoying also pulled the sleeves of Huang Quan's ancestor, letting him think of a way. "Well, originally you guys were speechless, Laozi was unwilling to save, but let me try it now." Huang Quan's ancestor set up a big shelf, walked up with his head up, came to the floor, and sat cross-legged in the position just before Bai Xiaotian. Then he said, "Come on first, stretch out your hand." A sturdy miner hurried over and put his hand on a small pillow on the table. Yekong has not seen any corpse poison. He also looked at Huang Quan's ancestors with interest, to see how he treated. But something unexpected happened. When Huang Quan's ancestor's little hand just put on the miner's pulse for a few seconds, he saw that Huang Quan's ancestor was bitten by a poisonous snake. His face changed, and he quickly retracted his finger. His expression immediately frightened everyone, and the little warbler was even more embarrassed, and now he wanted to jump on it. "Don't panic," Yekong hurriedly blocked her. "I saw Huang Quan's ancestors looking dignified and meditating cross-legged for about 5 minutes. Then he opened his eyes. His right index finger and his moved close together, and he pointed out sharply into the open space like a sword. Get out of here." An incredible shot of the miners appeared, and Huang Quan's ancestor suddenly drilled a thin black filament like gas like a hair. The repeated black silk, like a living creature, fell to the ground, still struggling and twisting. Fireball, Huang Quan's ancestors fired another fireball and burned the black wire clean. Then he was relieved. Good domineering corpse poison. Seeing the corpse poison with his own eyes, all the miners didn't say a word, and then thought that they also had this terrible black gas in their bodies. All of them were pale. And when Bai Xiaotian saw Huang Quan's ancestor sending out a fireball, he seemed to understand something. He knelt down again. "The immortal master is on the top. Please forgive the younger brother for the guilty eyelessness, and ask the immortal master to rescue them." Huang Quan's ancestor hummed, "Save them? Now you have to save yourself. This corpse poison is spread through physical contact. Just now you gave them the pulse, you have already been infected with corpse poison." The Bai Xiaotian heard that he was also infected, and immediately looked pale, with many miners kneeling and begging. Huang Quan's ancestor shook his head and said, "This corpse poison is not so easy to solve. This is a strange mystery, so you must find someone who poisoned it to unlock it." Yekong didn't understand, and asked, "Who the poison is, and these miners just make some hard money. Why do they put poisonous corpses to poison them?" Huang Quan's ancestor laughed, "You don't understand this. Some cultivators like to make some famous hauls on corpses and use them to make zombies. I heard that there are iron corpses, copper corpses, gold corpses, silver corpses, and some the attack power can be stronger than Monk Jadan, but I only heard that the longer the body survived, the stronger the refinement. Why this person made some living people, I don't understand." Then Huang Quan's ancestor asked about the status of those mining tools. It turned out that Kink village was an unknown little village more than a decade ago, but later found a fine iron ore field in a nearby mountain. This iron can be used to make saber ordnance. If it is purified, it can also be used by monks. Crafting machine, so the miners of these parties come. Because of this mine, a huge gathering area of miners has also been established in the mountains, and the miners all call themselves miner villages. However, the miners' village is in the deep mountains, and there is no water source, and it is not convenient to enter and exit. So even the Kink village was lively. Every day, a water wheel was transported from Kink village to Minor village, and at night, the miners of Minor village would go out to Kink village to have a good time. However, a few days ago, a plague broke out in the miners' village. At first everyone didn't care, but more and more people died. There is a goddess doctor in the miners' village. Everyone goes to the goddess doctor, but there is no way for the goddess doctor who was very before. They can only let them maintain their lives and eventually die. The most bizarre is the corpses of the young and dead miners who died after they died. Hearing this, Ecchi can basically be sure, this must have been made by someone else, otherwise who stole the bodies of these miners. Ecchi wanted to go into the mountains to investigate, but Huang Quan's ancestor stopped him. This corpse is very domineering. If I had the mana, I don't have to worry about it, but now I have no good solution. A man with a poison is not normal, and he is afraid that you will be infected. Ecchi heard the mystery of Huang Quan's ancestor, but he was a little unbelieving, so he decided to try how domineering the corpse poison was. So Ecchi called a miner and reached out. In fact, the person who cultivates immortals is not the same as the doctor. The doctor just looks at the pulse of the patient, and the monk did pass the spiritual power in his body, but what surprised Ecchi was that later, he immediately felt a ray of black gas broke through his spiritual power barrier and penetrated into his own body. With the limbs and meridians swimming, his destination turned out to be the purple house of man. Presumably, corpse poison controlled human brain and behavior. Ecchi immediately mobilized the spiritual power in his body to force the corpse poison out of the body, but at this moment, the spiritual cyclone in Ki suddenly turned violently, which made Ecchi startled because this rotation is Ecchi's natural movements. Ecchi didn't know how the corpse poison would react to the sea. He was so anxious that Chi stopped attracting corpses, and it was clear that Chi didn't even listen to his master's order. Ecchi had no choice but to let that corpse be sucked in by a powerful spiritual cyclone. However, the unthinkable situation happened again. When the black corpse poison approached Ki, it was completely killed by the layer of Qi in the air surrounding it. This layer of sorrowful air was transformed by the sky vision that he absorbed during the foundation. Ecchi has never known what this thing is useful for, and he never thought it would have such a powerful effect on the corpse poison. Ecchi quickly withdrew his hand and told the situation to his ancestor Huang Quan. Huang Quan's ancestor nodded and said, that Qi may be the legendary Qi, but in the past, some people wanted to absorb Qi for their own use, but they all came back to nothing. In the end, the Qi also slowly disappeared. The immortal energy must be sucked by the spiritual force cyclone and cannot escape. This only surrounds your air for a long time. It should only be good for you and not harmful. How can the power of this corpse poison be compared with the immortal energy in an instant? Killing is also normal. It seems that you are really a great candidate for killing corpses. To the reader. Dear friends, bricks. 10 more tomorrow. Yesterday it dropped back to 120. Tomorrow's 10 is the result of hard work these days. Bricks recommended tickets, come on. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 440. Xiaoman broke out 4 times this month, 2 of which were 10 times more. It can be said that few bookstores have Xiaoman being so diligent, but Eugen Bricks is currently ranked 6th. Brothers and sisters, support it. Do NT let Xiaoman the teacher was sad. 5 Mondays of this month, well, it's a month, 1 more Monday, Taoists want more changes, the decision is in everyone's hands, thanks. 40 Miners Village. But Ecchi smiled bitterly, if this fairy listens to my orders, that's easy to do. The key is that it doesn't listen to me at all. How can I mobilize it to kill corpses? Huang Quan's ancestor said, boy, Why don't you understand that this is a corpse poison controlled by someone? As long as the poisoned person does not die, the corpse poison is infinitely copied in the miner's body, and if you kill too much corpse poison, that person will find it hard to catch a snake and catch him. Yekong nodded and said, well, then I'll go to miner's village to see if I can find the poisoned man. Yekong was going to the miner's village, and Huang Quan's ancestors were going to follow him, but he was rejected by Yekong. Huang Quan's ancestors are not high, and they still have a bit of jealousy about this corpse poison, and it is not too reassuring to let the little warbler alone be here. It is better to go alone. Huang Quan's ancestor didn't take it seriously, and said, then you go, the immortality in your body has a killing effect on the corpse poison. The guy who poisoned the corpse should not fight you. Besides, there is not a rural dragon. I will set up a simple sleepy array here to trap those infected with the corpse poison. Remember your position and send a message. Then you are careful. Yekong nodded, asked the direction of the miner's village, and flew directly towards the miner's village with a shield sword. In fact, the miner's village is not difficult to find. From the village of Qingku, there is a straight road that only leads to the mountains. The mountain is surrounded by hundreds of blades with a slight depression in between. The road leads directly to the miner's village. Although it is a depression in the mountain, it is also very high. Looking at the sunken marks on the road is like tearing the ground, so you can imagine how difficult it is to pull the car and iron ore out of the mountain. How many young miners sweat, even blood. Yekong couldn't help sighing, thinking that the monks had amazing magical powers. If they had to cut the depression flat, there would be no effort at all, but how much energy would be saved for those mortal miners? But no one does this. Even if it is just a hand, the monks will not stretch out their hands. They regard mortals that cannot be cultivated as ants, and then suffer again and again. There is a relationship with them, and it is no pity to wave their hands and kill one. One day, I want the mountain to bow its head, the water back, and the world as I imagine. Yekong stepped on the flying sword again and accelerated into the mountains. The miner's village occupies a large area, which is several times larger than that of Qingku village outside. The houses in the village are arranged in an orderly manner, and the roads are neat and orderly. At the corner of this miner's village, there is a tall building with tall chimneys. It seems that the excavated mine was simply smelted here before being transported out of the mountain. In front of the miner's village, there is a large mountain bag. There are numerous mines under the mountain bag. Each hole is like a mouth opened on the mountain bag. Because of the corpse poison, there were no ghosts in the miner's village, but obviously the miners did not escape. Listen carefully, and you can hear coughs from all directions in the miner's village. However, it is not completely empty. 3 middle-aged men are standing angrily at the mouth of the largest mine under the mountain bag, looking anxiously at the mouth of the mine. Seeing Yekong's sword flying, the 3 middle-aged men greeted him, leading a well-dressed middle-aged man quickly hugged his fist. Here is the mine owner Diao Ben, dare to ask the immortal master Huangzhou Wanjia. Supported. Huangzhou Wanjia? Have any of them been here? Yekong frowned, lowered his flying sword, jumped from the sword, and hugged his fist. Diao mine owner, this repair Lihizi is from Huangzhou Wanjia. It was just a casual repair at the crossing. I found that the corpse poison was raging here, so I came to investigate. I don't know what the Huangzhou Wanjia is asking you about. Dead corpse, the 3 middle-aged men were surprised at first. They were scornful when they heard that this was a meditation, but they heard the reason for this meditation and immediately put down their contempt. Li Xianxia, this is the situation the mine owner Diao Ben introduced. It turned out that soon after the plague occurred, their mineral management guessed that it was not as simple as the plague, so they collected some millennium concentrates and sent them to Huangzhou Wanjia for help. Ordinary refined iron ore can only make mortal swords, but miners can occasionally mine rare millennium fine iron ore, which is the most commonly used main material for monks to make Fijian mother swords. Huangzhou Wanjia immediately sent 2 men and 1 woman and 3 monks to come. The 2 men were young and had a good tone. I heard that they were very real people in the foundation period. When they saw their boss, Diao Xianbin also believed in theirs. Shelves and strength are directly proportional. The 2 Zuji real people went down without understanding what was going on. After 3 hours, there was no news. The young female repairer who was waiting outside the mine was not assured, and she went down the well, but this went on. The time has passed, and there is no news. It makes the 3 mine owners anxious. If the 3 monks have 3 long and 2 short, I am afraid that the whole life of the mine owner will be lost. Yekong heard that Huangzhou Wanjia was 2 men and 1 woman again. Could it have happened to them again? I really have a fate with this English girl. Seeing this meditation, Diao Xianbin thought he was scared, so he said, Li Xianxi, I am afraid that there are really some evil spirits in the mine. I think it would be better for Xianxi to find some helpers, and Diao will surely thank him when he arrives. Yekong whispered, you are a real person who is greedy for your gratitude. If it was not for the poor miners, I wouldn't care about it. Diao Xianbin heard that this is also the real person who built the base. He knelt and knelt down, panicking. The fairy is no stranger. Diao is also anxious for a while. If it is resolved at this time, the owner of the mine must be more kind to the miners. The 2 middle-aged people also quickly knelt down and said that the owner of Diao Mining was very generous to the miners, and the pay was much higher than other families. Yekong nodded and sent a voice to Huang Quan's ancestors, reassuring him, and then left the mine alone. After years of mining in the mine, the channels inside are like mouse holes, and they are bottomless. The channels are all deep into the ground. If this point is checked, I don't know how much time it will take. These miners knew that to let the workers dig down, neither of the 2 mine plans was available. Yekong frowned. However, he also had a way. When he patted the spirit beast bag, tens of thousands of gold-winged ants hummed into a cloud of gold, and the buzzing in the mine hole was endless. Yekong played a few tricks, his lips opened, go. I saw that Jinyun turned into 5 pieces, drilled into 5 mines, and the gold-winged ants flew down. After encountering the fork, they were divided into several pieces, and when they encountered the fork, they were separated again. To the reader. Announcement, it's Monday again, 10 more today. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 441. 41 hit the wrong slap. Yekong hit the gods on the gold-winged ants and contacted his mind through the gold-winged ants to get the news below. However, this golden-winged ant is too much to divide. Even Yekong's powerful deity cannot be eaten. After all, he is a monk, and how can he divide the deities into tens of thousands? How to dig out so many holes? Yekong frowned, thinking that these mines were as orderly as the Earth's mines. In fact, this is not the case. There is no technology in the Kangnan continent. All miners rely on the shovel and shovel in their hands. If they see no mine, they will dig where they are. Who will dig the soil? That's why the dug holes appeared in such a mess. These mines are not only dense, but also very deep. Yekong felt that the gold-winged ant was almost out of his spiritual control, and he retracted it. After a search, no culprit was found, but it was not without results. At the end of a certain dead mine, the gold-winged ants obviously felt that there was aura fluctuations, which was obviously a formation method. Since it was discovered, Yekong no longer waited. He retracted the golden-winged ants and flew towards the cave. The caves at the beginning were wide enough to fly with swords, but the deeper the passageway, the narrower Yekong had to put down his flying sword and walk into it. This is a mine that seems to be abandoned, and there are many low-grade or digged and discarded on the ground. If it wasn't for gold-winged ants, Yekong wouldn't really care about this mine. Entering the end of the mine, Yekong easily found that the wall at the end and the surrounding soil were a bit out of place, and he took a picture with a person who was a novice PS. This fantasy array also wants to get confused. Yekong snorted coldly and threw out the soil essence directly. The guy seemed to know that he would let him go out to eat the spirit stone, and immediately jumped into the fantasy array like a ball. It is very fast to find the eyes of Zijing, and even the ancient array method of Fangxianxianzhen took only a few minutes. Such a poor array method is even easier. In the blink of an eye, Yekong saw the dark shadow in front of him, and the illusion array immediately disappeared, exposing the end of the real mine after the array. At the moment when the magic array disappeared, a figure suddenly flashed out. The figure's position was not at the far end of the mine hole, but lying on the fantasy array. For ordinary people, the moment when the magic array disappears, they must look towards the end of the mine, and they do not pay much attention to the small area in front of them. Dirty thing. Go to death, the figure stabbed with a flying sword and uttered a plea in his mouth. Although it came suddenly, but this attack was nothing to Yekong, and a shadow whose flying leg could kick it. However, listening to the crisp voice of the woman, Yekong seemed to have heard it, and immediately cancelled the attack. Instead, he sideways avoided the flying sword, and his body revolved like a thara, and appeared immediately behind the woman. At the moment when the two of them were staggered, the sneak-attacking woman's face was fixed in Yekong's mind like a photo, and it turned out that the female Xiu Luying. What surprised Yekong the most was that Luying's face was oily and dull, but her eyes were blurred with red dark light, which was clearly a dead body poison. "It's me," Yekong sighed coldly. He wanted to slap Luying in the back of his head to make her awake, but after he shot it, he felt a bit heavy, so he temporarily turned it into a grab and grabbed her back. Luying originally stabbed forward, his back collar was caught, his feet were unstable, his body turned, and he turned to turn the front. Although Luying was poisoned by the corpse, her consciousness was still very clear. She thought that it was those abominable zombies who came in. Then she launched a sudden attack. However, after the shot, she had made it clear to the person who came. The timid casual repairer I saw on board a month ago. Although she knew that she had hit the wrong person, she didn't have time to close it. Fortunately, Yekong escaped easily, but her collar was stabbed and her body spun naturally. Everything was so sudden. She didn't even have time to explain it. What she didn't notice was that she still held the flying sword in her hand, and that movement was like turning and holding the sword to cut Yekong. Yekong didn't expect that she could see that she was chopping herself, and thought that she was blinded by corpse poison in her heart, and quickly caught her wrist with her other hand, while standing upright, and slamming her into the mine. On the wall that won't let her struggle. "You wake up," Yekong yelled loudly, and the echo echoed far away in the mine. Luying was so buzzing that his ears buzzed, and he wanted to speak, but was so scared that he couldn't say it, and Yekong saw this expression and thought she was really confused. Went up, she slapped her again, of course, without much effort, just to wake her up. "Hey! Wake up soon." Luying's beautiful eyes stared at the boss instantly. "Oh my god. You slap me, cowardly. Wake up soon." Seeing this dark-faced guy want to fan himself again, Luying finally spoke, "If you hit me again, I will fight with you." Yekong listened to her, and quickly stopped. "You are awake. Actually, I am not hitting you, I am just waking you up. You were just fascinated by the corpse poison." Luying said angrily, "You have only been fascinated by the corpse poison. I just thought that the zombies had broken my magic array, so I attacked you with the wrong hand. Why are you retaliating like this?" "Oh, you have always been sober," Yekong suddenly realized. "You don't have to say it earlier." Luying gave him a white look. "You have a roar and a mouth first. I have time to talk." Yekong smiled bitterly, but did not expect to have such a big oolong, and quickly apologized. "Girl Luying, I really didn't mean it. It was urgent and I didn't mean it. I think you should understand. But slap you back afterwards. Okay, you said it yourself, Lu Ying quickly answered, while proudly showing a little fox-like smile. Ye Kong vomited blood. I just said a kind word, your little girl's family, as for such a sloppy comparison? Ye Kong didn't want to answer, pretending not to hear, and asked again, Girl Lu Ying, tell me about the situation. I just came in, I don't know what. Lu Ying looked down, Fen flushed and said, Can you, let me go first. Ye Kong noticed that the posture of the two was so ambiguous that they pressed the girl so tightly.